which us Reformed people think aren't really Reformed. Hi there, folks. My name is Scott Wakefield. I'm lead pastor at First Christian Church of Greene County, and I am here today with
Tessa Gourley.
And we are going to have a coffee convo. Awkward pause. Thanks for joining us. If you've not been with us before, Coffee Convos is a chance to get to know Tessa and to get to know her story and the work of God in her life. So we're glad that you have agreed to come on for a coffee convo.
I'm pretty excited.
I am too, because we're going to hear not just about who you are and how you've developed in ministry and your growth in recent years as an intern at Longview Ranch and your love for horse therapy and all that good stuff, but we're also going to get to hear about Bolivia, which is a trip you recently took. Before we get to all that, tell us a little bio. Who are you, Tessa? What is a Gourley, and what's it like to grow up? I don't know what that means. If you could answer what a Gourley is, you might be the first to be able to answer that. Tell us about who you are, where you're from, how you got here today. All that good stuff.
We originally are from Indiana.
Yeah.
And I lived there for 8 years on like a few acres of land, and it was super fun. I think I love my childhood because I didn't like have the stress and worries, but I also had like a cornfield that my dad turned into a maze, and like we lived a pretty good, like wild.
You had your own corn maze?
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah, from Indiana.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he would just take the mower and just make a maze for us. That's
amazing. I have seen a picture of all the Gourley crew in Indiana in front of a barn. It's a family picture. So I knew that you were in like agricultural world.
Yeah.
That's cool. What else?
After Indiana, we went to South Carolina. Stayed there for 5 years.
Maybe the barn was in South Carolina and I just accidentally lied. Okay, carry on.
No, the barn was not.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. In that time we lived like in an apartment for a few months, and then like in a house that we rented, and then a house that we bought, but like in the suburbs. So, and then we rehabbed animals. I love that part because I love animals.
So would you say you get your love of animals from that experience primarily?
No.
Other than that God put it in my heart? No.
No, according to my mom, like, I always loved animals since before I could talk. Like,
Gotcha.
I would do the whole pointing thing, like, at the animals or whatever.
Cool.
So, but my mom started rehabbing animals because she knew that I loved it and would love that.
Yeah.
And so...
and your mom was big time into that world of animal rehab stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, we moved here to Tennessee, and we've been here for 6 years as of last week.
Oh. 6 years. You are one of a number of Gourleys. What's it like to grow up in a family? This is one of the questions we got. We got lots of questions. What's it like to grow up in a family with lots of kids in it?
I just remember, like, always sharing a room and maybe hating it at the time, but my favorite memories are from staying up late when we shouldn't be talking and should be asleep and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then always, like, making sure whenever we cut something in half, like a donut, it has to be perfect, and then we'd argue over which half was more perfect and desired. But I would say those are the two main things.
This is what I remember about growing up in a large family. We cut our donuts in exactly 50% per. Let's keep going down the Who is Tessa Gourley road and just ask a bunch of questions about you and things you like, things you don't like, things people may not know about you, etc. So let me ask you this. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Definitely an introvert, but I think I've been forced into more extrovert sides, and I would say I'm kind of liking it.
Okay, cool.
So, but an introvert.
So this is what everybody says. I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
Okay, what's a weird gift you received?
I have no idea.
I'm asking that, everybody, just because I said before, hey, here are the kinds of questions we may be asking. And she's like, I have no idea what a weird gift is that I've received, so don't ask that. So I said, I will make sure I ask. So you've never received a weird gift? Anything?
No, I can't think of one.
I can't either,
I mean,
honestly. I don't know if I've
yeah.
received very many weird gifts. What is something that has recently made you mad, and then glad, and then sad?
Mad.
We're starting off early with the deep stuff.
That is deep. Okay.
What's something recently that's made you mad?
Something made me mad?
Yeah.
Oh, my truck broke down. That made me mad.
You drive what kind of a truck?
It's a Nissan hardbody.
What year is it?
Like 1996 or something.
Like approximately.
Approximately.
And it still runs.
Well, it did.
And how many? Oh, sorry. Sorry to bring that up. Now you're mad. How many thousands of miles does it have?
I don't know, like 18. The 18.
It has more than 18,000.
No. 180,000.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
I can't do the short
But
numbers.
it's a cool old truck.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
And it's small.
And it's not working currently.
And it's not working, so that made me
sorry.
mad.
Yeah. Okay. How about glad?
Well, then it made me glad because I got a new vehicle.
Which is a
Motorcycle.
And that went through the Gourley parental okaying process.
Yeah. I would say they aren't thrilled, but
Yeah.
I asked them for their advice.
Really?
And they were like, I don't know, but
you're old enough
if
to make your
do
own
this responsibly.
decisions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Cool. So mad, glad. How about sad?
Then it made me sad because the guy I bought it from drove it only 3 times that year.
The motorcycle?
The motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
And so then I had to clean the carburetor, and it wasn't working yesterday, even though I cleaned it.
That is sad.
It was, yeah.
What's a carburetor?
It does something with the engine and the air.
In the air,
And it does something there.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I couldn't really tell you either.
Yeah.
How about French fries, traditional, curly, or waffle?
Probably waffle.
Meaning you like Chick-fil-A fries?
I like Chick-fil-A fries, yeah.
Lovely. Scariest thing you've ever done? Scariest.
Scariest thing I've ever done.
Ride a motorcycle.
No, that was not that scary. But
Really?
yeah, for some reason it wasn't. Scariest thing I've ever done. I think I know people find jumping off cliffs really fun, but I find it really scary. But
People should find it scary.
Yeah. But I've done that, and it was pretty scary.
How high?
I went I think someone said it was 50 feet or something.
I assume this is into water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just off a cliff. We were belaying. I don't know. I have no idea if that's even. I'm sure that's the wrong word. Isn't belaying when you come down?
Yeah, but maybe you're thinking bungeeing.
Bungeeing. Sure, that's what I was thinking. Let's get back into things I know about. Something about. What's something that you could write a book about? You know about?
I would probably write a book about the way animals can affect humans.
So in the an animal therapy, helping people kind of a trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. Let's definitely get back into that soon enough. But we still have more questions that I'm supposed to ask because a bunch of people gave some questions. So let's run through some of these. What brings you peace in the middle of the crazy of life?
I would probably say it brings me peace, knowing that God is sovereign, and that whatever I do, or whatever happens,
right?
That He's always sovereign, and He has that ultimate plan, and He can turn the evil into good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Man, many of these are important, deep questions. So we'll get there soon. My word. People, these are good questions. We have no lights.
It makes it interesting.
Let's keep going with this coffee cup. Lights. Who's your favorite staffer to discuss theology with, and why is it Scott?
Well, you're very good at using descriptive words. and good vocabulary. But you're also good at, making it so that I can understand it.
I like that answer. That is the correct answer.
Yeah, I do love the vocabulary.
Good stuff. So tell us about horses, horse ministry. Did you ride horses while you were in Bolivia? Talk about your passion for horse therapy, how that began, plans for the future. And if you did ride horses while in Bolivia, did you have to speak to them in Spanish? I know that was like 7 questions in a row, but
That's
take
okay.
that
I can do that
from wherever you want to go there.
Yeah. So I'll just go ahead and say I didn't get to ride horses in Bolivia. I saw one horse, and the horses aren't super common in Bolivia.
No.
But not as far as I'm aware. At least that's what I asked, and they were like, I asked someone who lived in Bolivia for years, and she was like, I don't really know if there are horses here. Huh. So definitely not common. So I wouldn't know about the Spanish thing.
Okay. Okay. I'm pretty sure that was Tyson, one of our staffers, who probably asked that.
Yeah.
I guess you do speak to animals in different languages.
You would.
You would.
If that was your native language, you'd be like, corre, something like that.
Sure. Yeah. I remember in French class in high school learning that the things that animals would like, we would say, roof, roof, or something like that. They might go like, arf, arf, instead of something like that. All right. So horses.
Yeah. Okay, so my love for horses, I've actually recently kind of followed the path and figured it out, but I would say my love for horses and equine-assisted therapy came from my original love for animals.
Equine-assisted therapy. Is that how I should be saying this?
That's the horse therapy, yeah. But
should I say equine or equine?
I say equine.
Okay, all right. Tomato. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I started out loving animals, but I mostly started out loving them, by species. So I would want to save, my 5-year-old self was like, I'm going to save the tigers of this world or whatever.
Yes.
But then when we started doing the rehabbing, you had to focus on the individual animal itself. So, the injury or the baby that's, orphaned.
Right.
And so then I found out that I loved animals individually, which I believe God turned into a love for humans when I started going, when I went to camp and I would work with the horses, but I would work with humans as well.
Yeah. And those came together there at camp?
Yeah, they came together at camp.
Yeah.
But, now I just have this huge passion for teenagers, and I do love horses still, and I'm going to use them to help out teenagers and stuff, but... Yeah, I would say that's how it kind of formed, because I don't really care too much about the tiger species that much.
Tiger, schmiger.
Yeah.
Let's go with the equine. Equines. How was Debbie an important, helpful piece of all that for you? In helping that come together and showing you that?
Yeah,
And who is she?
She is the strongest woman I know.
Okay.
Yeah, she started out as I guess they would call that the barn leader or something of that sort. She was the barn leader.
Okay.
And she just came to our co-op one day and was announcing that she had a program going on where we could learn how to ride and do trails and lead trails in exchange for riding lessons. And so
that's how that started your relationship
with
Debbie.
That's how I started knowing Debbie, yeah.
And Longview, okay.
And then, I just loved it so much that I would go out there all the time, almost every day kind of,
How long ago was that?
About 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then near the end, right before she got cancer again, she started an equine-assisted therapy program because she had knowledge in that and had done that before.
Okay.
But she started it again with stepping stones, but apart from Longview. So I kind of followed her away from Longview.
Okay.
For a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so then she started doing that, and so then every Friday morning we'd have a group of teenagers come and we would do just introduce them to horses and let them be with the horses, and I got to see their reaction of, their hoodies up, heads down, not looking in the eyes, barely even being able to talk to you. They would just, it'd be so quiet, whenever they did force themselves to talk to you.
When they first get there.
Yeah, that's when
Yeah.
they first get there. Like, they don't even want to be there, but, like, each week it was something else. Like, each one week, you know, their hoodies would finally be down. Another week, they'd look you in the eyes. Another week, they might say your name if they needed help with something.
Mm.
And then, you know, by the end, it's like they're calling their best friends, the horses, their best friends.
The walls have come down.
And, yeah, they're talking up a storm and telling
Yeah.
you all about everything. And I just, like, my world revolved around Fridays, so.
Because that context opened up the chance to talk heart to heart, to talk about real things, to get at things that they needed to
Right.
process and work through. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it just opened up. They would, like, even the horses themselves, the horses and the teenagers would just, like, you could see them physically relaxed.
Mm.
And then, yeah, it just opens them up even more.
Cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the mechanics of how that works and the kinds of things you're doing with the horses that they're participating in
Mm-hmm.
that is the process of week after week, the walls coming down.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Initially, at first, we would just introduce them to the horses. And then we would also, like, have them either choose a horse or assign them a horse. A lot of times, if we let them choose a horse, their personalities kind of, like, I don't know, match up in a way. Which can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. If they have a rambunctious personality, they usually somehow choose the rambunctious horse. I don't know how it works.
So you let them choose a horse?
Yeah. And then they have that horse throughout the whole process.
Yeah. How long is the process?
It was a 10-week long
10.
process.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And then, so we would just introduce. The next week, it would be super slow. The next week, we would do some grooming on the horses.
Okay.
And just let them do that and just spend time with the horse. And then the next week, we might put them on bareback and just, like, walk them up and down the aisle. A lot of times, we would also just let them, like, take the lead rope of the horse and, like, walk along the fields.
Mm-hmm.
And then, hopefully after the bareback part, we would get them, like, teach them how to saddle the horse, and we would get them riding. And then we would have, like, obstacle courses they could ride through, and then the therapist would, like, talk with them, because some of them, like, will have, like, panic attacks while they're on a horse, or some of them will all of a sudden just, like, everything hits them. I don't know, it's it's great that the horses bring out, like, open them up, but it's also, like, sometimes it's, like, too much for them. Or a lot of the riding was just, like, because you'd be frustrated because your horse wasn't listening to you, so it would bring out all of these other frustrations in their lives.
Right, sure, yeah.
So the therapist would be there for that. But yeah, a lot of the, like, almost all of the teenagers just really didn't want to ride. They just wanted to spend time with their horse. Every single week they just wanted to groom, and that was it. But
Really?
they just loved spending time with their horses and having that bond.
Good stuff. So you want to continue to do that,
Mm-hmm.
capitalize on that. What's one of the most important things you think that God's taught you in that?
Really, I think God has taught me that humans are more important than animals. Because I didn't used to think that. And it was a sin. It was a sin. Yeah.
Well, they're not made in God's image,
Yes.
but they're still part of God's creation,
Mm-hmm.
and we're still called to steward. And care for
take
them.
good care of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, humans are more important than animals, but also just like, yeah, he's just put like that heart for the teenagers who have gone through like past traumas and or going through mental disorders and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or just need discipling, really.
Yeah, and it's an entree into that process, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. What's that movie? Reindeer are better than people. Is that from Frozen? I think. Is that right?
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
Reindeer are better than people, or something like that. So tell us about Bolivia. How long were you there? Why'd you go? How was it? What'd you do? All that good stuff.
I was at Bolivia for like 7 days,
Okay.
maybe 8 days. The travel was like 1.5 days or so. So
Yeah.
it was like I was gone for 10 days though.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did, we did a service project, which we cleaned up the park area.
Okay.
And I mean, we did our best. It was like covered, grass had grown up, but they didn't really have any, mowers or weed eaters, so we just, mowing with our hands. So we didn't finish it, but we did our best.
I've been on those projects many a time where I'm like, shouldn't we have tools? No, okay, all right, I'll just keep. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was really fun, especially when the boys. It's an all-boy orphanage.
Oh, okay.
So when they joined us to
Is that the same orphanage that crew's been going to for a long time? Okay.
Oh wait, it was with the interns.
I cannot answer your question. I don't know.
It was with the interns of Longview. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But yeah, probably the same orphanage you're thinking of. But it's called Bolivia Life Center.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, so we did a service project, but then we would also do Sidewalk Sunday School, where we would go to a basketball court and we would do games and then also lead worship songs and then share the gospel. And that was really cool because I was doing that all without a language. And we would have translators, but the language barrier was the best part. And then on Saturday, we went to a village who has never seen a gringo, and that's white people. So they've never seen white people before, and we did Sidewalk Sunday School with them. And that was so incredible.
You're like, who are these ghosts?
Yeah.
How did they respond? What was it like?
So some of the kids were super brave. Some of them were super scared, but all they would do is stare at you.
Yeah.
And then the village itself responded really well and tried to marry us all off. So, but at least they didn't bring out any. Yeah, at least they didn't try to kill us. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a good response.
That's better than I guess it could have been otherwise. What are some things you've learned through all that? Now, we'll talk about Longview and internship here soon, but what are some things you learned from Bolivia and still are learning, and how is it different than what you thought it might be, and all that good stuff?
It's different, kind of, because I thought that, the culture shock would be, astronomical, I guess.
For you?
Yeah, people would constantly tell me, oh, the culture shock, it's going to be crazy. But it really wasn't that bad. Now, the reverse culture shock was, I didn't know that existed, so it kind of hit me a little bit harder.
Meaning coming back?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's impressive because it was, I was only there for a week, so, how could it be that bad? But it was.
Was this your first overseas kind of? Okay.
Yeah, and that's why, I didn't, know what to expect. But, yeah, I went overseas and I went to Bolivia. I didn't feel like I was far away, but I knew I was. But it was really just, crazy that, my world was Indiana, South Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, and I had never even considered going to another country.
Yeah.
But then, all of a sudden I was in another country and I was now I felt, first of all, I felt closer to missionaries. I could understand kind of how to pray for them better and stuff.
Yeah.
But also I was if I wanted to come back, I could come back. There was just a whole, there's a whole new world. I could go to China if I wanted to.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is super helpful with those kinds of trips is, as you said, you have this sense that this is the world that I've experienced, and I know there's other stuff out there.
Yeah.
You see it on the internet, right? I know that there's other stuff out there. But when you go and you experience it, it's like God is bigger than we think. And his creation is larger, and the kingdom is working in a whole bunch of ways that go far beyond my experience of it. Yeah, that's one of the things that for me early on in a few of those trips, I just realized, man, God is much bigger than I ever thought he was. And he's doing work because he's God and not because of me. And now, I want to participate in that work. And I think it actually increased that sense of wanting to participate in God's work. But yeah, that's one of the things for me that was super helpful. And it's super cool that, how old are you?
19.
19. 19. It's super cool that you got to experience that, because I think fewer people are experiencing, this is strange to say, but I think fewer people are doing these kinds of trips than used to, because it's sort of become uncool and unpopular to go try to be the great white savior of some place over in Bolivia where they don't have tools to do things, and we're coming to help, as if we're hurting more than helping. But there are a whole bunch of lessons from those kinds of things that I think are helpful for us to go. What else is God teaching you through that experience?
One thing that I talked about with one of our translators, who is now a good friend, her name's Lindsay,
Okay.
and I was discussing like how I really had like always wanted to like go overseas and just like experience, like I worded it as like true, what's the word of like
Evangelism?
no
Missions?
no true when people are poverty, that's the word.
Oh, right, yes.
I wanted to experience true poverty,
Yeah, yeah.
where you saw people starving or on the streets.
Yes.
And then she was like, yes, you see people starving or you see homeless people, but when you go back to America, like there's poverty there, but in a different way. America has a huge amount of spiritual poverty. And in Bolivia, like I saw people who were Christians who knew Christ, and they cherished it more than anything.
They deeply have a relationship with God in those ways spiritually,
yes.
but they don't have the material stuff.
Right, but in America we have the material stuff, and then we don't seem to cherish it quite as much as they did. It was insane.
Yeah. So was that part of what you meant with the reverse culture shock thing, like the coming back here?
Yeah. I was like a lot of people, I guess, with reverse culture shock, they go back to their hot showers and their microwaves. But for me, it was more like the spiritual poverty that was in America, and I was just like, what are these people doing?
Right.
Like, what are they doing?
Right. We
it was
have
so pointless.
Everything, and yet we don't need the Lord because we have everything.
Right.
And spiritual poverty is sort of, not that this is the only explanation for it, but I think in my own life, I see this, but it's easy to take for granted, depending on the Lord and needing Him, and the importance of the deep, abiding, spiritual, daily walk with Him that actually feeds me. It's easy to act like I don't need that when I have everything I need around me, right? Like, and I can control it physically. Yeah, that's definitely an important lesson that's learned not by just being here, but by going overseas and seeing other things. Yeah, that's big. That's good. 19 years old, that's good. So tell us about being an intern at Longview and how that's been helpful, and what do you do? Tell us about how the program works. Give the viewers some insight into all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a Live Bold. That's what our internship program's called.
Oh, yes.
Live Bold.
I have heard that.
Yeah. And in that program, we read a lot of, we read certain books of the Bible each week. And we also usually have a book we'll read, whether it's, we've read, Counterculture or the Explicit Gospel, those types of books. Or right now we're going through, leadership books.
Okay.
And then we also do adventurous stuff. So we've been on the AT for a few days, and we went whitewater rafting, and we just went skiing recently.
Cool.
And then we're also just learning how a camp works and how to manage a camp, how to run a camp. So I live there at Longview Ranch 24/7.
Yeah.
And on the weekends we'll have groups. If we don't have groups, we'll usually do something adventurous, or we'll have a weekend off.
Okay.
But on the weekends, we'll have groups, and we'll host those groups. We'll lead the activities. And then on Thursdays, that's when we talk about, what we've read, the Bible, and we'll read, we'll watch, leadership development videos, how to be a leader, that type of stuff. And then we just discuss, how we've been
let me know if you need me to come in and tell some things about how to do that.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Actually, that'd be cool, having a speaker
No,
No,
carry on. I'm just being a dork.
My favorite thing is that it's a home kind of feel, like I'm living at my house, but on Thursdays we go over to the Nasiko's house, and we're all just talking about our growth. And
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've grown so much.
Yeah. So it's how long?
It's a full year.
Yeah.
So I started in September and will end at the end of August.
Okay. what has been the most challenging and difficult parts of being an intern?
Surprisingly, like as an introvert, I thought I'd be fine living by myself. That was pretty challenging.
Meaning you've learned a little more how much you need others in community in those
Yeah.
ways that maybe you need to be intentional about that just happened before? Or,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and then like those times where it's like, I mean, I'm doing my own thing, but it's nice having people around me and just knowing that they're there. But I am like surrounded by other houses of people at Longview. You know, we have like 3 other.
You don't
know,
live in your own cabin in the middle of the woods
But
by
I
yourself?
do. I do live in my own cabin.
Oh, you do?
But just not.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
I
actually
am-
think that you
I am
I didn't
in
actually
my
think
own,
that you did. I was
It's
being
like a
silly.
little mobile home, but
Oh, okay, cool.
so I live there like by myself because I'm the only girl intern.
Yeah,
But then the guys live over there, and then the Nasicos live over there, and
right.
our volunteer family lives there.
Okay, gotcha. So how would you I sort of characterized it for you and you agreed, but how would you how would you characterize that challenge and how God's grown you through it?
I feel like I've had to keep myself accountable with what I'm doing during my off times. So when I'm at my house, you know, what am I doing? What am I watching? What am I reading?
Yeah.
What am I thinking about? You know.
Whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, or admirable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
And in the saying that I keep myself accountable, it's saying like, you know, I'm putting up against like, how do I, you know, is it biblical? Is it, you know.
You're testing it
Mm-hmm.
as you're going.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
I'm learning a lot about like priorities.
Like what?
Like, you know, I've got work and school and family and friends.
Right.
And then am I going to spend my time in a way that reflects my values and how I value?
Yeah, it's good. And you're learning to have to be intentional about that.
Yeah.
That's good. Hope our 19-year-olds all think that way. People need to know about your awesome taste in automobiles. Tell us about your old truck. We already talked about your truck and your motorcycle. Do you have any other vehicles or automobiles that we're supposed to know about that go into this category of your awesome taste in automobiles? I think that's Tyson again. It may not be, but are there any other such vehicles that I'm not aware of?
None that I have in my possession. Just dream vehicles.
Like,
Okay,
what does that mean?
These dream vehicles aren't going to happen because I like to keep things simple with my vehicles. But just like, maybe one day, and I say this knowing that it will never happen, I would like to have I can't say the word, Chevy. A Chevy. And I would like it to be black with silver lining. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Black with silver lining? Like a
Yeah,
certain type? Like, what do you mean? Like an old Camaro?
Yeah, like a super old one. I don't know.
Like an old
the
muscle car.
names.
Oh, okay.
But
Something
it's a
like that.
truck.
Oh, just a truck? So you're into trucks?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
I do like cool looking cars, but I don't have any desire to have them.
Yeah, I know. We'll be somewhere and my son will say, "Ooh, that's a good," and he'll name it all, and I'll think, "Oh yeah, that's cool," and he'll tell me all about it,
Yeah.
and I'll think, "Oh, that's interesting world that exists out there that
Right.
I will never be a part of." Right.
Like
That's
you
how
can
I feel
point
about
out
it.
the cool cars, but you don't know how to talk about them.
No,
That's me.
I certainly
That's
don't.
me.
Okay. We've covered that. Okay. Do you have any lately favorite passages of Scripture and why? We'll close up with some Scripture passages and what God's teaching you and what you're encouraged about kinds of questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like anything that like displays God's humor, because I love the fact that God has a humor.
Yeah.
I believe that to be a fact.
Yeah.
So I really love any of that. And there's quite a few out there.
There are actually some places where it's obvious that, especially in the Hebrew poetry, or the way Paul will use some Greek phrases, that there's sarcasm that's meant to be in there that people don't easily like to read into it. Now, of course, there's a sense in which all Scripture is anthropomorphic because we're talking about like the creator-creature distinction, and it's like, how do we understand that unless it's talked about in our terms?
Yeah.
And so we shouldn't be imposing the negative human parts of like sarcastic stuff on God. However, there's way more of that in Scripture than people care to admit.
Mm-hmm.
You're not crazy. That's actually in there. Yeah, I took a whole literature class. You're the one that's supposed to be talking. I took a whole year-long literature of the Bible class. That was fascinating because it pointed out a number of those kinds of things.
I would
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. So what are you reading lately?
Well, with the internship, we're reading
Yeah.
through, like, we just finished, like, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and we're going through 1st and 2nd Corinthians? Chronicles.
Mhm.
I always get the C's mixed up. But, and I feel like that's very repetitive, as it should be, because that's what Israel was doing.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Those historical books recapitulate. That's the big nerdy.
Recapitulate.
Yeah. There's a lot of recapitulation of some things in there. And some of the different angles are meant to help you see the same kinds of things from Israel or Judah or from different perspectives. So what are you learning in all that reading?
In that, you constantly see, like, how serious God is about sin. Because he'll use words, I probably can't think of it right now, but he'll use words like, like, annihilate. He was, like, talking about a sin, he was like, I'll annihilate you from the face of the earth, or whatever, I don't know, but, and it's just, like, when you really think about that, like, wow, like, he is serious.
Yeah.
And that one, like, it's kind of funny, where, the kids, like, there's boys came down to Elisha,
Yeah.
and were, like, mocking him, and it was, like, Baldy.
Yeah.
But, like, God was serious because, like, I was talking to Matthew, our leader. He was like, God was serious because they were, making fun of, his prophet, and then 2 bears mauled them. And I was like, literally, what is the sense of this? But, like, I mean, it makes sense because, like, they were just mocking God, basically.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to say nowadays because people don't like to say these things out loud. But, like, God actually can justifiably wipe every one of us out and still accomplish his purpose of salvation even if we die. Now, I once did that passage of scripture in a series called I can't remember, but it was something about like hard, weird passages of the Bible, and that was one of my favorite passages because there's some good context that helps explain. This isn't Elisha just unnecessarily, or God unnecessarily, with no purpose, wiping out kids. It is a serious thing that deserves condemnation. Like sin actually deserves condemnation, and that's where all people are, unless they're saved. Yeah, that went serious.
I enjoy that.
For what would you like prayer? Or
What
need
would I like
prayer?
prayer for?
Yeah, that was one of our staffers asked that question.
Okay. Well, we just had a women's retreat.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, like, what fears do we need to lay down before the Lord?
Yeah.
And I would say, like, and I was, like, I would confess to my small group because I was, like, I had to, like, ask the Lord, like, just to, like, humble me because I couldn't come up with a fear. I was like, oh, goodness, I don't know. But I think that, like, when it comes to me talking, like, especially about God, the Bible, I'm afraid that I don't word things in the right way. In a way, like I may know, whether I do or don't, like, I pray that I know the truth of what I'm reading, what I'm learning about, but I'm afraid that I won't word it truthfully. So I would like some prayer probably about, like, more, understanding or confidence
in having the truth and
being
not worrying about it as much.
Yeah, and being able to, like, share it without twisting it on accident or
right, yeah.
or having it twisted in my mind and, but I like to go to people and be like, is this what it's saying? And just like tell them like what I thought it meant.
Yeah.
Or said.
Cool. We could all use prayer for that kind of boldness with some healthy apathy that doesn't care about what people think, even ourselves, and worrying about what other people think. Yeah, I grew up with a lot of that internal concern with like getting the things right, getting the words right, etc., which I still carry and actually care about. But I decided in ministry 15, not quite 15, but 10 to 15-ish years ago, I'm just going to be me and say it, and if it's not right, God can still use it. Because I also thought, you know what? Every single person through whom God has worked to extend his kingdom, to speak the gospel, to speak the truth, and to speak comforting things to people from the word. Every single person through whom God has worked has been a fallible sinner who didn't have it all 100% right. And everybody from whom I heard the gospel was speaking the truth as best as they knew and could. Not that I think that they were right about the things that they said. I think some of them were actually pretty wrong about some of those things. But God used it nonetheless. So I just decided, just put it out there and kind of let those chips fall where they may. You know, a lot of people around me probably are like, I wish there was less of that, Scott. That's a good one. I like that. That's great. So what is something that God's teaching you lately?
I think he's teaching me how to, how do I say this? I found myself growing a lot in this internship.
Yeah.
And
I can see it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to stop. It's like I know I'm going through like
yes.
I'm almost have that fear of like, am I gonna like leave the internship and stop growing, or like, but you know, knowing you have that fear is gonna keep you from doing that maybe, or seeking out that growth.
Sure. Yeah.
But
is it so? We used to characterize it as you go off to conference for a week, camp for a week, and then you're growing, and then you come back home. So it's like you're still in the camp experience, and how do I continue to keep the going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not finding satisfaction in other things, cause like right now, you know, I found myself like yesterday I was like, I could watch a movie right now, like, and I haven't been able to watch a movie in a while because it's like I've been busy. But then all of a sudden I was like, I literally don't even want to watch a movie. I just know I could. So I didn't watch a movie. And like, but what I'm trying to say is like, I'm finding myself having a desire and more like satisfaction in just like learning about God and, you know, doing this and that for God, through God. But I don't want to go back to like the life of just like, oh, my satisfaction is in shows again or something like that, like movie shows, or my satisfaction is
vegging out to this, numbing out to that.
Yeah, like it's not a problem to watch a movie, but I don't want.
Right. You're not speaking as a legalist.
Yeah.
About it, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I want to continue like having that desire of just like, oh, really, all I want to do in my free time is just learn about God, or you know, go do this with my friends and talk about God.
Why do you think? I agree with you. Why do you think young adults may hear you speak about, I want to spend my time being satisfied with God in what I'm doing, by Him, satisfied by Him in whatever I'm doing, and not necessarily the thing that I'm doing. Why do you think that you, a 19-year-old, saying that sounds super different and weird compared to maybe even your typical young adult Christian? Why do you think, and it isn't just young adults, but why do you think that sounds so weird compared to someone else who would say, go watch a movie for crying out loud? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
It does.
It does.
Okay,
I
good.
think. Now, how am I going to answer that?
Because I'm sitting here going, not sure that makes sense. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
How am I going to answer that? I don't know. But I think, to answer part of that question, I don't think it's a really good answer for the full thing. But is that, like, society is super into, like, the self right now. Like, not only are you supposed to serve yourself, do what's best for yourself, but you identify with yourself and you can
like the goal is expressing yourself as an individual, and like that's the meaning I have and get from life.
Yeah, essentially.
As opposed to being fed by the Spirit and being satisfied in God Himself.
Yeah, is to express yourself, or
So it's self-satisfaction instead of God.
Yeah.
Satisfaction.
I think that's what like society's kind of like screaming at people, and they're feeding off that, of course, because it's all about themselves. But
yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. What do you think it is about culture in the world today, non-Christian influences in the world today? What do you think it is that it's especially tempting and difficult for young adults nowadays that keeps them, let's talk about Christians, that keeps them from staying on a growth path of God satisfaction? I mean, you talked about some of that being like they're trying to satisfy themselves. Are there any other ways of talking about that are particularly difficult for young adults nowadays, you think? Because I'm trying to figure out more and more the culture of young adults nowadays. And like when I grew up in those years, I heard a lot of people saying, you need to be careful about what you watch. You need to be careful about what you're putting into your mind and your heart. You be careful about what kind of music you're listening to, what kind of shows you're watching, etc. And there were a limited number of those things. And we all kind of knew what those things were, but now there's an unlimited number of things, and every single person might have different preferences that are directed at them. So I'm seeing this happening, and I'm not hearing a lot of people say, you've got to be careful about how you filter, how you spend your time and the stuff that comes in. I just see a lot of young adults struggling with all of that in a way that there's a very definite line between people like you, who are the weirdos, who are like, I don't have this desire for these things as much because I want to do whatever pleases God because I know that will please me, and that my satisfaction and joy is found in that, and not these other things. Why is it so hard to learn that lesson for young adults today, you think?
I guess my first thought goes to, like, there are so many distractions. So you have the distractions, but then the distractions lead to people that they're going to look up to. So if that distraction is someone on Instagram or Instagram itself, then Instagram is going to lead to the, what do they call them, profiles or people that they look up to.
Right.
They look up to simply because they spend so much time with them. Or
and
just
so those
looking at
become
their photos.
authorities for them?
Yeah, almost. Like
Okay.
like authorities, but then also like that's who like they want to become, that's their model, like the celebrity or something.
Right.
But when you like, for me personally, like I had to start spending time with God, and then also I was living where I was, like when I moved to Longview,
Right.
I was surrounded by people who were living for God and
Right.
surrounded
focused
by
on that.
yeah, and so since I was spending so much time with those people,
Right.
and then since I was spending so much time with God, those became my models. Those became, I started just seeing God as my authority, and I saw all these like people that I look up to, and I was like, I started acting in that way, I guess.
Yeah.
So I do think that what they tell you is like filter, keep watch out for these movies and these movies. I definitely think like that would be important, simply because if you start spending so much time with a certain thing, like whether it's movies or something, and they're showing you how the world is and just how broken the world is, but you don't look at that seeing brokenness, you look at that just seeing normal normal, accepted, way of life, then.
Yeah. You
But-
grow into and become like the thing that you spend time with, pay attention to, worship, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And
you become what you are sort of identifying with in that sense,
Mhm.
to use the cultural lingo. Yeah. Good stuff. So good. So good. It's good to hear about Bolivia and internship at Longview and how you're growing. What are you, this is the last question,
Okay.
what are you excited or encouraged about?
Excited or encouraged about?
Yeah. Because I'm such a negative ninny, I don't know what a ninny is, that I always focus on the negative analytical things. So I try to end on an exciting and encouraging note.
Yeah. I would say I'm super excited for this summer, because I will be in my, I'll be as a counselor for the teenagers at
Oh.
camp,
Right, yeah.
which is like something I'm excited for, but also like just putting this out there, like most of the teenagers I've worked with, like with Debbie Brown,
Mm-hmm.
and then when we went to Bolivia, like they were all boys.
Mm.
So I do have like that passion for them, and I'm excited to now work with females,
Yeah.
teenagers, and really have that time to pour into them and to just find my passion in them as well.
Cool. Good stuff.
And disciple them.
That is a wonderful, exhausting summer.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
It will be.
Yeah. Being a counselor with those folks, is it 2 weeks at a time or 1 week?
1 week at a time.
Yeah, okay, for a week at a time.
Mhm.
Yeah. For how many weeks?
I think we're doing like 5 or 6 weeks,
Okay, yeah.
maybe 7.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Get as much sleep as you can. Good stuff.
Priorities.
Thanks for joining us.
Mhm.
Thanks for joining us, peeps. Join us next time for another coffee convo. So